in greenway spaces in the west side of the town. Trees that may have already been there before residential buildings started to be built in greenways within and the neighbours of those trees are starting to worry that they might fall on houses or especially in lovely days like today. So we know that the people really hoping for these trees to be removed, but we're also anticipating that we might get comment about that. And of course, the rising main work is underway. The homes and machinery and all the blood that goes with that. Town, and of course, the inevitable comments of why the hell you're clearing up the roundabout because they've only just needed that. But the project probably actually we've got a lot of things on our board who's very good at being able to explain those in ways that really doesn't use them, and we will see more frustrated. So that's great. Obviously, there's been some things that that have had to be adjusted and rethought about, or reconsidered, considering the amount of money that's going into the projects and property project is one of those areas that at the moment it almost feels like it's effectively been put on hold. But I think that what's actually happening there is that we're going into a much more detailed investigation phase, which I'm hoping is going to lead to some real decisions being made about what the scope of this work is and what the function of funding from the council is, what it's going to do, and what place of the business exists within the town. I think all this will be more, but that is what it is. And where that lies, where our responsibility lies, and where the business community within that space, what their responsibility lies actually managed. I know that there's been a lot of conversation about, I know that the community board was anxious about the fact that we seem to be having lots of things coming to us, but largely funding is because it's looking at library and servicing status that they are council facilities. And so we know that that means that much more of it will be divested into decision making at council rather than at community board level, because the funding will come from that student model. We know that at the moment funding is put aside in the last launching plan process needs to be redefined. So at the moment that funding doesn't exist. We've sort of said no, that side focus on funding that gives us that clear scope of what's going to happen to us. So that we're not doing things, spending lots of money on things that may not be part of what the final iteration of this project looks like, or on purchasing buildings or doing things to create open space. That is the final plan that's actually coming. So I think the community board are really, I think that they understand where we're at with that. I know that a lot of the way to get going on the project, same with the pool, the same with everything, the more it will cost. And of course, we're getting into some of those feelings in our community, like we did with the pool, that we've now had these discussions going on for about a decade. So when are we actually just going to get on and do something? And so we need to be mindful that there's some pressure from the community to go, well, what's happening for that communication as decisions are made is going to be really crucial to keep that community on board with that. I know that our MUGS group, they're self-named, by the way, the more user group, point to themselves the MUGS, it's not us being mean to them, it's their own monitor. There's probably some frustration from that group at the moment as well, because they probably feel that there's been a little to and from what's happening. So again, that communication from council as an organisation just to keep our community in the loop, because there may also be a feeling that somehow this is being pushed to council and Cromwell may have lost their voice in it, but we just need to make sure that we're keeping those communication lines really open so our community understands exactly what's going on. Because we don't want it to play into their reputation. This is the actually making decisions down. As we know, sitting around these tables because we do a lot of that, that's, I think that the funding the plan is to ensure that scope will be defined, so that the project scope will be comfortable with the there. So once that next one process to actually got something tangible to go forward to done. Being mindful that in our community board, in our last meeting, we also talked about the urgent work that needs to be done. So we can put through the paving and some of those things. We know that the team, what we team are looking at how we can get some of the risks that had simple being through. Who had fallen in different size in our walls. So we own the roadway, it is a legal road through there, so there's the road, so we do some work. It's made we need to decide which road is. So the other thing that obviously is hot in everybody's minds at the moment, and we're just about to get into the consultation for the community boards about distributisation. And we know that those are things that conversations are about to happen. So we know representation, distributisation, and delegations conversations are things that on the community is still highly engaged in. We seek to see what happens next with this. We know that there are some significant changes afoot with the proposed changes to the main representation around community board tables, and also the conversations about which things might be distributised and then what delegations will out of those. So I know that in terms of how we represent ourselves as a community board, we will need to continue to strongly advocate on behalf of our community. And sometimes this may be at odds with the view of council and other boards, but it's all part of that democratic process, and knowing that we do have a voice, we'll have the ability to add our further to this process. We continue to want to see as all those assurances around assets and land on the down and the use of the benefit from the community and the developer. We know that they continue to be involved in that. And about that fair representation from your board around the council table. I know that's part of the representation discussions. And on the progress on planned infrastructure upgrades in Parliament, because that does include, we know that the ball is underway, but it doesn't include what's happening. How are we managing growing population, things like the fair as state, and then I really have got to point about when is that actually going to get going, because it's still just clear piece of land. So those sorts of things are the things that our community passes us about regularly. So on the other side of all that, there's also still need to celebrate in Cromwell. It's not all doom and gloom and fighting to get stuff across the line. There's always fabulous things going on in Cromwell. Of course, all our cycle trails are amazing. Coffee's always good. The day is much nicer than coffee today. I have to say, there's some Alex, it would be well worth coming through after you've finished your meeting to maybe have a glass of wine and one of our wonderful vineyard. Other feast in the district. We've got wonderful things coming up that we've just been able to do grass to, like the Eagles Golf Tournament, which is going to bring a large number of young people to Cromwell and Central Otago. It's stuck with us 3 cold days and nights, so it's wonderful to break off the light up winter event has been saved by some good negotiations with things and with the organisers in the council, which is a project. It's always a highlight from the calendar. I encourage you again to come through with a knowledge wine, maybe find a motel, stay the night, go out for brunch the next day, and the best of the best of the yards.
Excellent, thank you, Anna. Very fulsome report. Questions, councillors? Nigel.
And then you touched on pressure on housing and probably you also did some fear estate goes to development. What's the community's understanding where the Fear Avenue project is at?
My understanding, the last sort of reports we've had on that has been about engineering reports for horizontal infrastructure and the staging of how things are going to be staged across the development. We haven't had a report on that for some time, so we're really hoping to have an update that gives us some time, there is some timeframes there, but to update us on those timeframes and whether they're still realistic.
So have you got a time frame for the first tranche of
I
road?
haven't got it right on top of my head this morning, I'm sorry, but there may be somebody else in the room, or maybe in the room later, we can do that, Louise might have that.
And the two years update, but I can take details for you.
Yeah.
All right, we will see you in 3 months, but of course, should anything come up that you wish to raise with council, you just jump in and we will hear from 2 community boards that day if appropriate. Always keep those corridors open. Thanks so much for travelling down today from what sounds to be a sunny and windless day.
Was it a headwind you drove into?
Beautiful.
Headwinds, I drove in 2 years. Blown around wildly, I got out of my car into the building, I've stripped all my jackets and scarves back off as I entered. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful meeting and I'll see you again.
Thanks, Alan. Speakers ready to. Yeah. Alrighty, just get my papers in order. So this brings us to the meeting proper. And we have item 2463, the representation review. Submitters to be heard, and we will be joined via Zoom or some other form of remoteness by Emeritus Professor Kyla Russell on behalf of Puketeraki Rūnaka. And welcome Saskia to the table to lead this paper on the representation review. So we'll just wait for the Associate Professor to, the Emeritus Professor to join us. Kia ora, can you hear us? Professor, can you hear us? Uh-oh. You're on mute.
Hold on.
There we
Are you
are.
able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and you can hear us.
No, not
And,
very well at all, no.
I was looking away from the microphone. Can you hear me better now?
No, hang on, I'll turn my volume up and see if that'll help, okay?
Right. Okay. In some regards, us hearing you is more important than you hearing us, but we can hear you clearly. Just make some adjustments to our software. Can you
Yes.
hear us better now?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful.
Okay.
How would you prefer to be addressed, Professor or Kyla or?
Kyla's good, I've got a name, we'll use it.
Wonderful. All right, the floor is yours, Kyla.
Okay, so I understand that you received a letter from Suzanne Ellison on behalf of Kāti Huraka Ki Puketeraki. And I assume that you've all read that in terms of its content and our thinking upon the name change and spelling, or the name changes or correcting spelling. I also think that in June 2022, Paulette Tamati-Alif presented to you on, I think, at the district council meeting, and also on a piece that was in the ODT shortly thereafter about the naming and the correct spelling. And I believe that on that date, it was Manuhira Kia that was corrected. And this has come now almost 2 years later to see what our thinking is on the spelling of Mania Toto. Am I right?
It sounds about right, yes.
Okay. And so there's really nothing that I have to add further than the letter which was sent to you, I think, on the 24th of April by Suzanne Ellison as manager of Kāti Huraka Ki Puketeraki Rūnaka office. And that for us, based on the earlier presentation done by Paulette, that the spelling for us would be Mania Toto, so with or without a macron, MANIATOTO. The meaning of that, as alluded to by Paulette in 2022, said it came mostly from the tussocks that once grew plentifully there on that plain. And Mani, of course, is a flat plain area or a flat table type of area on the landscape. So we find that that the name be spelt as we have suggested, as I think the New Zealand Geographic Board also has an interest in the spelling being correct. Have I understood everything thus far?
The only thing I would say is that the question we're being asked here today is, from the organisation's viewpoint, a bit more gravitas because it is the name of the board, whereas at that stage we didn't have a Manuheta Kia board to
Yes.
correct the spelling. So just that slight difference in what we're dealing with today.
Okay. So the board, as I understand, or the name as it exists for the district and council was with an O, Mani Ototo, is it?
Yeah.
And is that the one that is we're talking about in order to correct the spelling?
That's what's up for discussion today.
Yeah. Okay.
For the name of the ward and the board.
Yes. Okay. So if it's spelt Mani Ototo, then we are very happy to support that. If it's Mani Ototo, it doesn't have a meaning necessarily for us at all. It's like having a name that no one understands, and it isn't an actual part of the Kaitahu vocabulary spelled in that way. So I'm thinking that if we want to correct things, then the correct spelling would be the same as the spelling of the district itself, Mani Ototo.
All righty. Anything further to add, Kyla?
No, not really. It's just that it'd be nice to have it corrected. But, you know, we know that it's never easy. And sometimes if we're not familiar with terms or names, the same thing happens here, you know, the Taieri River. Some spell it with a Tai E-R-I and others with a Tai A-R-I. And that's also, one has been heard and spelled accordingly and the other is the correct spelling. So that's what we would hope for, that it might be able to be changed so that there's consistency with our understanding of the word, and that the board and the district board and the council are spelling the name of themselves in the manner which is correct.
Thank you. I just wonder if councillors have any questions on, in terms of Kyla's area of expertise.
I'm not sure if it's
Go on.
Kyla's area of
Councillor,
expertise or not.
questions?
Yeah. Do you think the representation review process that we're following here is the right process to consider changing the name for Mani Ototo? Or
Well,
should
I
it be
think
some
so.
other process?
No, I think that's as good as any process. I mean, it just depends how you got the name in the first place and how it was misspelled in one place and correctly spelled for us in the other. And I think we might perhaps go to the National Geographic Board, but I doubt that we would, unless the spelling was so far removed from the correct one that it was just a nonsense in terms of being a word. And I think one of those, an example of that, is Awamoa. I read years ago in A.H. Reid's book that they named that because it was a river or a stream that ran through where there once supposedly was a Moa butchery. And they thought that was a good idea, but it's not a Māori name. It's two words made to describe something and not something that we have necessarily called it. Does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Possibly as an aside, that you raised that one, and I'm aware that Waihola is actually an impossibility in Te Reo because one of the letters doesn't exist. How many of these are in, you know, the Otago area? How many eras like this are there? Is this an exceptional situation, or is there quite a number of them?
Some of them I've seen and I'm aware of, but Waihola is correct.
Oh, you told me it wasn't, so there we go.
Well, in the southern dialect, we have names that go north of the Waitaki and then south of the Waitaki, and the sound that we make, it makes it, if you were spelling it with an L, there is a Waihora that exists in just out of Leiston in Canterbury, and there is Waihora here, and they're just different because we tended to use the L rather than an R.
It shows the difficulties because I learned that in a sanction today class. So
I agree, but I mean, even if it's an R for an L, that's not that's about enunciation and pronunciation, I think. We all know where Waihora is and how we say it. And we will still pronounce it in that way, but if it's changed, then that's something that will have to be considered by not just Kāti Huirapa, but there are other Rūnaka, most possibly Ōtākau as well, because our boundaries often are defined by a river and on land anyway.
Okay, sorry. As I want to do sometimes go off on tangents, but that in itself was enlightening in a sense. All right, nothing from anybody else? Thank you then very much for taking the time to join us today, Kyla. That's been very helpful. Thank you.
Kia ora, and thank you for the opportunity to do so. Have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And just before we go to Saskia, I'll also acknowledge that we have all received a letter from Ōtākau Rūnaka on this matter as well. Saskia, the floor is now yours.
Morning, councillors. I think the is unable to be here today. He was very keen to read this paper, so he's given me some notes, and I will read them and wait for that. First, it came to light a few weeks ago that we made an complete statement in our report in March regarding the spelling of Maniatoka in Ngātahi's position on that name change. This was due to an internal miscommunication after a conversation with Waikato. We truly do regret this mistake, and you'll note in the submission that you've just heard, the position is reviewed to the previously reported. The paper you might be in 3 written submissions to the initial project today. The submission that you just heard from focus on the desire for a name change to the Maniatoka. In essence, if agreed by council today, this would see the change in genders and reports and how council agrees to do Maniatoka report and report. While it logically flow, in consequences including steps within the current name would be changed, but that would be a future decision that we could be previously enjoyed. This decision would not result in businesses that would still have to change and make the accident because it is a council. Businesses. So in light of the submission that we just created, the Deputy Meeting of the Maniatoka Community was held in November to discuss whether it's changed the position of the board. The board position remains that it wishes is going to remain the same and not. So just to need to be able to do these submissions, the submission from Gavin is accredited by on the questions. The most pertinent for consideration today is the concern that less opportunities for the community will result in more work for leaders, especially around the role of the groups. I also spoke about being vigilant about whether lowering the numbers for the community board could lead that diversity. This is something we need to consider and we'll play out today. The third submission that you had before you covered a number of issues outside the scope of the review. The governance manager did speak with us individuals to get clarity on those matters, so that was covered off in that way. So today the consideration for you is to weigh up the submissions and to see whether or not that has swayed any of your decision around your initial proposal. The final proposal that you will decide shortly will be publicly notified from 1 month. If there are objections or appeals on council's final proposals, these will be then forwarded to the Local Government Commission for consideration for determination. So in essence, if you were to consider a change in spelling today, that would go to the Local Government Commission, and the objections to it, that would go to the Local Government Commission and right on that. Any questions before you discuss?
So councillors, how I'll be progressing this is we need to come to a landing on whether there's to be a change or a correction to the spelling of Maniatoka. The reason we need to deal with that first is that you'll notice there's other things that we have to refer to the Maniatoka ward, and it would simply be we would have to refer to it as Maniatoka if we do change it. I'm wanting questions now. Then following questions, we will go around the room. I think this is a topic that requires all of us to have a voice. And then going around the room, we'll start with Stu as the Maniototo representative. And we'll also finish with Stu as an opportunity to answer any points that were made by other councillors. So firstly, questions for Saskia.
And I'll leave off. I've probably got about 4 or 5 potentially, but I'll just go to the first one.
Get into it.
So based on the history that I've picked up from how this name change was proposed, that never actually happened, well, happened everywhere but for the name of the Maniototo Community Board. Does the New Zealand Geographic Board have the authority to determine how we should spell the name of a community board as it had the authority to determine the name of a county council?
The name for the board is governed by the legislation that we are the government act. I would need to go away and look into that, and of course my CEO's got any insight into what might be right, but it'd be a pretty strong determination by our geographic board. They see this is the way we should be spelling it.
In the thoughts, I would have thought they can define the name of a geographical area, and that's their statutory authority.
The reason I ask is that they defined the name back in 1928 and again in 48. I know that's a long time ago, but saying, well, they said, and then the Maniototo Community Board, County Council says, don't like that. We've got a new building, we've got a seal, and we can't change it. And then they amended the determination to exclude everything but the name of the County Council. So it seems that they did have, and I guess my question is, do they still have?
My best guess would be no, because back in that day, the local government commission, I don't think existed, and the right to say about the names falls with them. So I don't think the legislation.
Yeah, okay, that's
two different ways.
That's a really good answer, and I'm not surprised by that. But I thought, well, they did used to have it.
Give them a bet.
Yeah, and it's a reasonable bet, so I think it'll help inform me. Yeah. All right.
Carry on if you've got a list of questions.
Well, I think you answered my next one, because my next one was going to say, if not, then it's up to the CODC to determine. You just mentioned more likely the local government commission. And I guess I'll leave that where it lies, saying, well, if it's not us to determine, it's the local government commission, this is within our scope.
Yeah, and my understanding is the local government commission, if we don't change the name, wouldn't look at it unless there was an appeal. If we do change the name because we didn't have it in our proposal, then it would automatically be reviewed by the local government commissioner.
That's enough for me at this stage.
Lindley. I think that's falling more into the statement that we'll come to rather than a question of Saskia, but we'll definitely get a chance to voice that position. Any other questions for Saskia? Neil?
Yep. If we were to change the name of the board, is there going to be a requirement for follow-up action in terms of road names?
And that would, I think, what your statement would likely show that that council, if you've changed your name of the board and the way you refer to the board, I think that while it doesn't immediately make that we change it all, that would logically flow as a decision from that. It would be very inconsistent with your board as one name, and then you have council assets and roads and so different stuff.
But apart from the road, which is a legal name, there's probably nothing else legally. That's not a legal name. You can call the stadium whatever you want. You can call it the Tim Cadogan Stadium or the Stu Duncan Memorial Stadium.
It's called the Maniototo Stadium now, owned by the council. It would be odd, but it would take another decision.
That's, yeah, but it doesn't involve another organisation. Road naming is a statutory process.
Yeah.
Naming the stadium is not a statutory process. That's what I'm trying to look for. So apart from the road, are there any other statutory things you need to go and do? My assumption was probably not, but.
But to look at it another way, Saskia, if we were to change the name of the board today, the board, if you change the name of the board, the name of the board would follow from that. The only thing that I could immediately think that would change would be when we put out an agenda, it would be the name at the top of the agenda would be spelled different. Having said that, there could be other things that would not automatically, but would potentially flow onwards. It's not, I wouldn't for a moment say that that would be the end of it, but it would be for this decision, the only tangible out.
That's absolutely correct, because the legal decision that you are making today is the name of your community board and the name that you assign to that board. That's what was decided today in the process of that.
I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
Any more questions, councillors? All right, as I said, I'd like us to all have a good discussion on this, and Stu, entirely appropriate as the Maniototo councillor. Or the councillor from the Maniototo councillor from the Maniototo. That just causing too much, Joe. Stu, the floor is yours.
Well,
Well, I've got a half a dozen, statements there that are, but I'm going to start at number 5. As an elected member, for the time when I have been elected member, this is probably one of the toughest and galvanising decisions that our community is facing. I'll go back to the top now to number 1. Maniototo Community Board is a very tight community board. It functions very, very well. We hear it time and time again. It's a great board. They get on well. They knuckle things out, and we're a very resilient community. Whether we're building a hospital, we're trying to get a turf, or doing the thing to do. This issue has been well and truly nutted out over the last 2 years, especially since Sanctuary came out, the original statement a while ago, and it really did bring the community together, but it also formed opinion. It's been to the board twice in 2 different shapes, and both times the board has stayed the ship. And it was 5-0 the first time and 4-1 the second time. It is a well-respected and long-serving board. The members on there are absolutely top quality, and they have been in the last 10 to 15 for the time of it. Our role as a board is to bring information back to the table. Our role is to listen to our community, and in this situation, and we try, and this board especially, are across most things in the community, whether it be fire brigade, here's how long, out in the community, local clubs. And to me, there's been at least 90% of the people that communicate within the last couple of years have been to keep the name of the community safe. Number 2, people have different reasons. And I guess one that struck me is a lot of the older people and the older mothers and grandmothers in the community, the ones that are part of the Maniototo Place in there. The ones are part of the garden club, the ones are part of the squash club, tennis club. So they've all got different reasons, because a lot of those ones were the ones that built the facilities and the squash courts, and they went out. So those people are pretty passionate about what they fought for then, and possibly are a wee bit misinformed about a lot of the reasons why we've just heard from the Runanga and stuff like that. But they are very, very opinionated, make no bones about the Maniototo people will come out right and wrong. And a lot of the stuff that Neil's been alluding to is in the past, and I understand that we all read that, we all get that information, and we've seen reports today that come through the emails today. But now we're in the now. And I guess people are, at the moment in Maniototo, are comfortable with the way it's done. A vote against what our community board stood for and voted for, I guess, brings the question, we talk about representation and what value would have community boards around the state. Because effectively, if you're not prepared to listen to something that's actually been really, really galvanising and really, really tense, and we've talked about that in other issues of the community, is what is the point of having our community boards if we can't represent what the people are telling us? And whether other people see that what our decision making is in this room is correct or not is up to the process. Thought about how tough it is, remember, but we are in a democracy. I absolutely stood on Anzac Day, fortunate enough to free services, and we have the ability to have a say. Some people have different points of view, and that's fine by me. Not all people probably have picked up on all the information because I'm so galvanised, and of course, that against that. Some see it as a screen, as a smoke screen, there were rate rises, and there's a debate over here and something else going over there. And some people are just angry about change. So this is a very, very good group of people, and I'm sure that we've all been well informed, and Tim's done a great job of making sure those questions and debates out that really well. At the time I've been elected member, there hasn't been many more debates other than they tried to shut down the bank and rent really. So, you know, that's me.
Stu? Yeah, where are you at?
Next to shoot. Um, I find it kind of ironic that going back in history, the path they followed, but clearly then the governing body for making the name, that owl should be shot. The geographic board said, well, we're going to change everything but the name of the county council. And then in 1954 did that, made that amendment. So everything else that's out there in theory should be using the Maniatoto name. The road's not, so they never followed up to make sure it was done, so that should have been done. I think the key thing comes to me is saying, is this the right process by which to change the name? It has wider implications. And 14 submissions to the review. The background to the correct name makes perfect sense to me. I'm just not convinced this is the right process in which to change it. And I think to Stu's point about the democracy side of things and what the local community want, that you use this process to do it, and you're going to put a whole lot of interest on one particular aspect of a far wider issue than changing the name of a community board. And I'm just not convinced this is the right forum. Personally, the name should be changed without a doubt. I just don't think this is the right place to do it. Either way, this is going to be appealed, I think. But and that's so. Then I think that just simply supports. So, well, as a council supporting what your board have told you, as the representatives of their community, elected by their community. If we are true to what boards are there to do, then we should listen to what they're saying. They're saying, I'm on one hand saying no, but agreeing that we should. Just saying this is the wrong process.
Entertainment, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Neil that the name needs to be corrected. It's spelt wrong. I think that within this discussion, we're talking about correcting the name of the ward and the board, which is within the purview of this council. I do think that possibly this is the right place for that. However, I think that the board, who's based in the Maniatoto and has been elected to represent the people of that area, need to have their views given the appropriate weight. And I acknowledge that the views of the board and also the comments that I've received since then are not unanimous. I think to change the name back to the correct spelling needs to be done in a way that brings the community on the journey to embrace and really drive the meaning of the name, which is fitting for that area. But I want to see them embrace it and really own that meaning and that name, and not have that be done by us sitting at a table an hour away forcing. I think that us to make that correction today against the wishes of the Maniatoto Community Board would have a substantial amount of damage, A, for the relationship between this council and our community boards, and B, potentially for interest groups within that community who have given their views one way or another. And I would like to see a plan of how we move forward with this, but as a journey together, so that we have the community board and the community driving the change, as opposed to it being driven from this table.
Anna? Sally?
So I originally was fine with everything when we didn't have the letters come through from the Runanga, because I thought that they were neutral. But after reading those letters, I also agree that the name should be changed to the correct name where it does have meaning. But like Tamer, also agree that there's a really strong voice from the community board, and I do get conversations about going against the community board, although I do feel that it should be corrected.
Nigel?
I'm quite relaxed about the way the spelling as it is, because my view is the language. written or oral, there's a dynamic that which then everything has changed, spelling has changed, way pronunciations change, so bringing in the edicts from somewhere else and saying written in stone as you shall pronounce this like that and spell like this in this way. I think they just don't work because languages are dynamic. So I'm relaxed about this spelling. I have to say, I think it was I think council would have changed the spelling within council as it was. I don't describe it as a shockingly poor decision. I think it was made arbitrarily. I think it was made without any patient. And now we're reading the results of that. And for me, the wishes of the community are paramount. And I think it's been demonstrated reasonably well that this will live within it. One of the presence coming to be dead, I respect that. That's what I think we should vote it.
Sure.
I think what the Cameron said is wise. However, I think, why do we listen to what I'm going to take Stu's point about the community board's existence, and if we just have been here talking about how many community boards are going on in our community. I hope we can listen to if the board is saying no, this is not what the community wants. You should actually listen to it. I'm not saying that those, like Sally says, I'm not saying that those letters don't hold weight. But I would not, I would be reluctant to go against what the community has spoken. That's what they've spoken. And I think it's pretty arrogant of us to continue what they've done. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you. There's no doubt in my mind that the name currently is incorrectly spelled. When you look at the history, it's been recognised. That's been recognised. And it's been very successful. Correct that. What I question query is, and I agree with you on this, is that to my mind, representation review is about how we how it's tabled and it's constructed and how it's all constructed. It's not, I think, by using the representation review process, it's looking at it from the back door. So it's talking about the name. And I don't know whether it's with Jaden's email. It would be better to have the community on side of that name change than it's us stepping in face to the community which over 100 years now is secret. One form of spelling.
Incredibly remiss to sit here as a member of the Parliament board and say, don't listen to a community board after everything that we've been through recently. Can't sit here and say,
I listened to my community board, because we've got something to say, but don't really that's just community board, because board is no better. And I think this table, we've got a really good platform to make those decisions on behalf of council with the respect to those boards. And the representation review is more about whether or not those people would do it, or they want them to do it, if they do it properly, if they do it well, if it's right us. Possibly this means an election in 18 months' time, different people putting their hands up for the community board in Manitoba because they don't believe what's being represented is what they feel. That's not our fight to fight today, but an acknowledgement of still being corrected or changed is what's important, and they're on your. I agree it's a correction. And it's not now. We definitely feel that way. So that's a journey. James' email was great. He's from Manitoba. He's got that background. I think that's something the board needs to work through in that community, and we can help. We can support that, but it's not our decision to make.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go with the board. I think we've got a bit of time in the current non-business meeting to kind of do anything.
Lindley.
So what's the name, for the name probably, every community, we will probably focus at the people that have been taken. Not to be this community.
Oh, the joy of going and eating, don't I?
I haven't got it.
No, I agree with, a lot of the comments. I agree with Nigel as well. And what my colleagues to my right have just said, it is really important to the people that live here now, including the, people that have gone before me. So I also like to think that it's become a recent table to give, many totally, will be, good of actually say to stand up for something they believe in, and if that's what they believe in, then like.
Thank you. From my perspective, one of the things I've loved since I've been here is being involved closely, obviously, than I was previously with the people of Manitoba. They are proud people that get things done like I don't know if anybody else in the country does, no disrespect to anyone else, but there's a degree of isolation out there that I think at times creates a very strong community. And I admire the people. I've also heard from people in the Manitoba, well, I've heard both sides. I've been bailed up in the cafe from one perspective, I've been bailed up at a sports field from another. There are people in the Manitoba who feel very strongly that the name should be changed. Our Pākehā people, Māori people as well. Certainly I've been bailed up by more who think it should be not corrected than think it should be corrected. But nonetheless, there are two sides out there. I also firmly recognise iwi's position. And I believe iwi's position should be respected because it's their language. If we were having a debate about whether to change the name of the Ranfurly Community Board to a Te Reo name, it would be something entirely different. But what we have is a Te Reo name, or something in the guise of a Te Reo name, that is a nullity. It means nothing. There seems to be no debate that Maniatoto to iwi means nothing. That not for a moment suggests, in fact, it's the exact opposite to so many in the Maniatoto where it is fundamental. And I think Lindley's made a good point. War memorials have Maniatoto on it and so forth. So it's difficult. It really is difficult. For me, I look at what it is we're doing at the one level, at the very simple level, name on the agenda will be spelt different, will be corrected. Other level, eventually it would probably logically be changes to other things that council has control over, because why would you not? So I think it's not just nothing. So I'm, this is a difficult one, but it comes down to me that a mistake has been made. And a mistake was made way back in the day when the Te Reo name that had been used for a place for generations was transliterated incorrectly. A mistake was made by this organisation back in 1989, that this organisation followed that mistake in the naming of the board. And I don't think we were even aware of it. I wasn't here, but I've only become aware of this in the last couple of years. And to me, when you make a mistake, I was to spell Brown without an E or McPherson with an A, I'd say, gee, sorry, and I'd get it right. And that's the way I'm leaning. I recognise I might be a lone voice in that, but that's what is making me think is our mistake more important than a people's language? Stu, I'll just give you a chance to, if there's anything that's been raised rather than reiteration, if there's anything been raised that you think needs addressed, I'll give you a chance.
No, I think Millie sort of summed it up, but it's our world of difference. I don't think people disrespect, and they're like, you and I have both had people from both sides. It's not disrespecting one side, the Runanga or anything. And I guess it's a living thing that we'll live through, and the other community boards will come up again and make it up in debate. But at this time, at this moment, people in our region, the greater region, are really passionate about what we've got and what we're at. And we as elected members and our board is reflecting that to this table of what we've been told in our board. And I think very much everyone has given some thought that it's been tough, and it has been one of the toughest and most challenging times when you get lined up at the cafe about what you should do. And it's like we have a process to go through. This is the process. This table makes those decisions, but it's been tough. It really has. And I just respect everyone to make the decisions I make, and we can deliver it.
Okay, thank you. We need to move a motion on this because there has been a submission made, so we can't just not do anything sensing the direction that the room is going. We can't just not do anything. Sarah, did you have a proposed motion if the name of the board was not to be changed?
Yes, so, but we do need to give thought as to why we would like to do that.
So I'm not going to move this, but we would need to have a motion, I think, where the wording would be something along the lines of council moves or council resolves that the spelling of the Maniatoto Ward and Community Board will remain the same, having listened to the views of the board and considered the views of the board. In too fast. The reason I'm being, well, Sarah gets that down, the reason I'm being pedantic at that is just simply the law is we have to have not just what we've decided, but why in this particular process that we're involved in.
Yeah.
Sarah's going to pop that up.
Well, while that's getting typed up, to signal out the board and iwi, what about any other person that made a submission about it?
And had,
No,
didn't have
no,
permission in the initial one. I think we just had.
the initial survey was half and half in the Maniatoto, half and half. There was no mandate either way.
Yeah.
But so you're saying, so just, I'm not saying wrong, but there's no submission we got.
One from Puketeraki.
Yeah.
Was,
And the view of the community board.
Yeah.
No one else has gone anywhere near it.
I think that's correct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Survey was part of the three consultations and not part of the.
Yeah. As long as, I just hate to think that you've.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we've got to get this right. Otherwise we would have to have another emergency meeting to get it right again, which we don't want.
See, that's right here, I'm getting.
So just ignore D downwards, but
We could take ABC together. Like that.
you think, Saskia, legally that would? Yep.
Does it need to say current spelling?
Hmm?
Does it need to say current spelling?
Yeah, maybe the current spelling.
Rebecca just raised a really good question.
Yes.
we wondered what should say the views of the submitter.
Thank you. Yes, very correct, because we had the views of a Runaka, which is not
Yeah.
representative of these. Thank you, Rebecca. Well done.
Is there an opportunity to expand about trying to send some direction about what should happen, progress it, or keep out of here?
I think we need to keep out of it, but I will make some closing remarks after the
Which
vote.
which can be picked up, because I think this doesn't stop here.
I think it,
Can't.
well, yeah, we can. I think it does for us. Well, not for another 6 years.
Well, no, it might depend on what happens when we notify the proposal as to what's.
That
Okay,
will
we should get
take,
that
that will take its course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we have to listen to or have we considered?
Considered, having considered the views of the board and considered, yeah. You should be a lawyer, Tamer.
Oh, there you go.
Listening.
Maybe.
Listening to
Fine.
what said it.
It's an insight.
So is that one you want to change, Tamer?
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. The board and the submitters, to just take out.
And then take out.
Okay.
And the users, yeah,
Um,
and yes. So just take out that segment. Okay,
Well, I think you take out the views.
happy with
I
that?
think the views.
All right, I'll invite someone.
I will move that. I'm happy to second that.
Righty ho. Any further discussion, councillors? All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Aye. And I'll have that recorded.
Sorry, excuse me, just for the purpose of anyone watching online,
Yep.
you may not be able to hear it, could you just read that out again?
Yes, certainly. So what was just voted on, that the current spelling of the Maniatoto Community Board and Maniatoto Ward will remain, having considered the views of the board and the views of the submitter. So just in closing off on that one, I just want to say that I think this has been a very useful exercise, and that, like so many in the community, I wasn't aware of this, and I've learned a great deal, and particularly that newspaper cutting that Otako brought forward was really quite something. I've heard around the table people saying not this way and perhaps not now, but I think this is another step in the discussion that the Maniatoto needs to have. And I agree with Tamer that I think this needs to come from the Maniatoto. And so, yeah, I had thought that I might raise an idea that we would have a combined Maniatoto board. I'm not going to do that because clearly around the room, the view is to maintain the status quo, but I think it's reflective of the fact that change is coming. It's just not this way and not here, and I think putting that up now would be an exercise in utility, not futility, because I just don't think it would take any, would serve any purpose. I think that was very good, Cordella, and we'll move forward. And I recognise we have folk here to do the accountability reports that are a bit
Tim,
delayed. We won't be too much longer before
we still need to go over the.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah, don't panic. Right, you're allowed to panic. It's me. So just taking it with all the other matters that we have in front of us in the representation review, they've flowed fairly smoothly. Going through to the consultation, we did have two submitters, one on whether the workload would be increased too much by, and there might be some diversity lost by our boards with the change to that was proposed. And help us ask you, what was the other one?
Around diversity.
Oh, so that was the two of them.
So that was within the same.
I see.
So
Right, so I stuck them up into one, and for obvious reasons. So realistically, with that in mind, I'm not sure if we need a great debate. We have, we've noted that as we must at E, and then F, it'll become, Sarah, will be the simply continuing and confirming our final proposal that we put out to submission. Does anybody have anything that they want to pick up, change, debate on those points? If not,
Well,
Yeah.
I make the observation that,
Please.
disappointed in the level of submission we got, to be honest, but that to me is also signaling that actually not a lot of people think it's broken with what we're proposing. Sorry, what we're proposing is that bad.
probably got it right.
So that, that gives me some confidence at the same time, and time will tell.
On that basis, then I'll move D, E and F if Neil wants to second that. Any discussion, team? On that basis, all those in favour? Aye, against carried. Thank you very much. Good discussion, Tamer. The floor is yours.
Right, we are now moving forward to page 39, which is our community grant accountability report. Welcome. Best time is that. Are we going to get, you get an introduction, Rebecca, and then we can do Rebecca, other Rebecca's. Hello. I'm seeing double.
Good morning, Councillor. I was going to say this is quite a different matter that we've got before us now from the one that you've previously considered, but then I thought given the organisations for accountability, it is with heritage and culture. Not so much. But today is the accountability reports from both the Central Otago District's Arts Council and the Central Otago Heritage Trust. The grants policy introduced a tier system of accountability with those organisations receiving over 10,000 coming to present to the body on which they were given the grant. And in this case, council funds both those organisations. The report itself has all the financial details and the performance reports, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Today's really about an opportunity to hear from the two organisations to showcase the incredible work that they do in the community. Both are respected and support the district in the roles that they have. The report, I've mentioned that. I'd like to thank both organisations for their support for our work over the past year or two. And in particular, I want to mention the Heritage Trust support the district vision work that we did, and they were really helpful in helping, and so did the Art Trust, sharing the message out to get people to be involved in that. And also Rebecca's really helpful with the Tourist Box project, tourist, the full mural design in the Alpha Street Reserve mural out of Cromwell, which was a fantastic project if we got to see it. The program going to present, just give a little bit of an overview of their organisation, but happy to answer any questions that you may have about the accountability themselves.
Good morning, everyone. Contact works towards ensuring that arts in Central Otago continue to flourish. So responding to the Central Otago Arts Strategy, the immediate requirements for our wider artistic community and those of Central Otago. We support to develop and promote artists and the arts in our region. The grants we've received in capital allow us to assist strategy directive and seek additional funding for other arts related projects relevant to them. We'll find a detailed overview of our core work and insight into the projects we have been working on in the 2023 report we've received. We have observed a new demographic of people moving into the area who have a strong interest in meaningful art and cultural experiences. There's a growing sign of concerts to include the exhibition of art habitat. Additionally, artists, groups and other creative industries offering these experiences are seeking advice on how to bring them into the Central Otago community. Long-time locals are increasingly recognising the importance of the arts for wellbeing, education and identity, and their enthusiasm and engagement in these cultural experiences has been on the rise. We have a number of significant artists living in Central Otago, and international recognition of these people identifies the region as being creative and inspiring. We are striving to secure funds to update the region's main arts profiles, and social media pages. This involves brand consolidation, a fresh perspective on website design and refreshed imagery. We are also close to finishing the new design of an arts trail press card, which will include information on artists, studios, and galleries across the district, and highlight the public art that is brought out of the region. We are always looking to other parts of New Zealand to identify current partners initiatives and exploring potential benefit for bringing these to Central Otago. With this in mind, we are working on the following. A feasibility study into a major public art project from Central Otago, a pre-live art exhibition and ability of developing a regionally owned collections. We are working on instigating an arts festival and exploring opportunities to bring a big art project or events to Central Otago that involve the talents of artists from New Zealand and further afield. We currently work in the arts program, which will advertise opportunities in the arts, which was having to and identify what is currently missing in our communities, with the hope that we can fill in some of those gaps. We are all revisiting and also reviewing and revising ways to further strengthen our arts community. And this includes exploring the possibility of providing attention services and or offering additional services and support for locals and newcomers wanting to meet other artists, get further connected and get involved. We've used it to increasing collaboration between arts groups across the district, which there are many, and to share knowledge and resources and address any challenges that may face in the future. One of our main goals is to ensure that the arts well resourced, promoted, supported and fully integrated with the community, maximise social, cultural and economic benefits to the Central Otago experience. We especially aim to support our community and we continue to develop Central Otago as arts destination. We're really grateful for the support of the Central Otago Experience Council and thank you for recognising it and relevant.
Neil, you're looking like you might have a question. You're just smiling. And while he thinks about his question, I would just like to highlight the What's On newsletter that's going out. It came out on our school loop, and I think it's really neat. There's a lot of opportunity to find things that are sports related in our area, and if your child is not sports related, if they are otherwise creatively inclined, sometimes it can be a real challenge to find activities and events and things that are on for them that are targeted at youth. So it's really helpful to have all the things on site. And I feel like I've attended a talk on culture and heritage at the Young Elected Members when I was away, and we had some fantastic guest speakers come for a panel discussion. And I wrote down a little saying that they had, because I thought you would enjoy this.
Yeah.
And they said infrastructure is the vertical threads and arts, creativity and culture are the horizontal threads. If they weave together at every point, they create a blanket that provides shelter for our community. That's beautiful.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Neil did not.
Well, no, I was trying to think of one while the report was probably good. I was sort of saying, well, you could have left a gap and sort of left an obvious question that someone could have asked, but you didn't. So it's a pretty comprehensive report, and I do take my hat up to those mules in Cromwell. They're pretty cool. I enjoy, and I actually enjoy the other ones. I enjoy a lot of the telephone correspondence. Good work. I get a chance to be once a year to see your good work as well. So no question.
Oh, there you go. Well done. Thank you. Welcome, David and Judy, about the heritage.
It's going to change. Shit, right? Yeah, no.
The final slide just is some audio because.
That's very quick. Right, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of our accountability report. We believe the Central Otago Heritage Trust is a good balance of work and projects that fall under our three overarching goals. One, supporting the guardians of Central Otago heritage to identify, protect and preserve our heritage. Two, working together to enhance best practice, protecting and managing our heritage. And three, celebrating Central Otago's heritage. I'd like to use my brief few minutes this morning to highlight some of our standout projects and events. I stress that these are just some of the projects undertaken across the sector, but they're representative of the impact being delivered into the community. Over the last year, we have committed to run a heritage books program. These books are a great way for locals to connect with Central Otago's rich history and heritage. At our AGM in November, bioarchaeologist Dr. Andy Solar from Otago University gave a talk about the stress endured by children and families living and working on the 1860s Otago goldfields. By analysing these skeletal remains from unmarked graves across the region, Annie's research highlighted how children are a barometer for the wider population. In February this year, we had 3 local presenters talk about the wealth of heritage sites that are often missed by the cyclists and walkers along Lake Dunstan Trail. This talk was held at both ends of the trail in Hyde and Bannockburn. And tonight we have another heritage report at Central Stories. Professor Daphne Lee will present her research on prehistoric Lake Manuheritia, which once dominated our landscape 19 to 16 million years ago. Due to popular demand, this presentation is also being repeated tomorrow night at Clyde Museum. This talk is the first in a series over the next few months that will highlight objects of the Central Otago Museum 100 project. Each and every heritage talk event over the last 18 months has been put in book, highlighting appetite for the local community to learn more about our heritage. Tonight's event marks a significant milestone, with over 1,000 people having attended this series of talks. In July last year, we were offered a $5,000 grant from Tourism Central Otago to produce heritage-related imagery that could be included in the TCO Visual Library. We decided to use this funding to create a community event, to organise a photography competition. The aim was to raise awareness of the diverse heritage offerings across our district, as well as generating a wide range of photographs for use in tourism and heritage sector promotions. The Heritage and Focus Photography competition was launched in November. Over 400 images were submitted across the 3 competition entry categories for professionals, amateurs, and young photographers. It's heartening to see participation from young families and students, with the youngest entrant being just 11 years old. An exhibition showcasing the winners, runners-ups, and highly commended photographs from each category was held at Clyde Museum from December to February. The project was extremely successful, and we welcome the opportunity to partner with the Council to coordinate all of these community focused initiatives. The grant we received from Council's Community Fund last year also enabled us to leverage further funding to continue employing a part-time coordinator who manage our oral history project. This volunteer-based project will celebrate a significant milestone for the next month, with the 100th oral history recording in sight. Many of these recordings are now available for listening on our website. The recent passing of Hyde's last rail disaster survivor, Donella Hoare, and heritage stalwart Graham Stewart, reminds us of the importance of capturing our stories. Graham Stewart's interview is now online, with Donella Hoare's interview currently being prepared for publishing. We are now in a position to take this project further, with plans in place to develop short podcasts on themes and topics that resonate with Central Otago's unique heritage. I'd like to finish by playing a brief 40-second excerpt from an interview with Rosie Turnbull. Rosie is the great-granddaughter of Henry Charles Wong Gai, who in the 1870s was an interpreter for the Chinese on the Dunstan goldfields. Again, on behalf of the trustees and our 29-member heritage group, thank you for your support for heritage and for your time this morning.
But he was not in line. He was went around all the courts and spoke for the Chinese. Now the Chinese were, when they got to court, were not treated very well. They weren't treated very well anyway, but if they didn't have a voice and could not express themselves, the chance of getting off the chart was very slight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and congratulations on another sold out event tonight and tomorrow night. It's wonderful to see that amount of people, and a few people I've spoken to this week have actually told me that they're getting to the talk, so
I'm going.
well done. You're going too? Ah, fantastic.
Good.
Any questions
You know,
for?
I just think that, oh, history is fantastic. And I just looked on my phone in 2019, I had tea with dinner, cooked dinner for Danella Hall, and she spoke, I think, 12.5 minutes about the Hyde train crash.
Yeah.
And I said, do you mind if I record some of this and got to get started? And it has been done, and it was a phenomenal story. My father was the undertaker and putting on across the road and said, can you go and get my son? I saw him get thrown out of the train. You've got 2 daughters on that train, I don't know if they were alive or dead. It was amazing, the history, and she had a very good understanding and knowledge right to the end. Yeah, it's really cool, and I think to make sure we get plenty of them, because their heritage and history needs to be taught.
Well, we're always willing to receive names of people who we think would benefit the community from hearing. That's great.
Possibility that some of these, presentations and talks that are happening would be available for people to review online.
So we're in the process of doing that right now. We've got a couple we put on, and the one tonight we're going to attempt to just see some of the ones we did last year were actually asked them to be presenters to come back, and we're just going to ask them to go through it again in front of the video, so we can actually. But I think that's a really good idea.
Towards maybe children.
Which will also be on our website for, yeah. Excellent. Thank you.
Can I just acknowledge, their AGM, the 3 trustees that stood down. Sure that it was placing them will have been difficult, but in particular, Gray Shakti, acknowledge his commitment to Central Otago Heritage Trust. Many years of acting on the Town Trustees, as you pointed out in the report. I had the privilege and pleasure of being on the trust for while I was a council representative, and the enthusiasm and way that Gray approached things was quite inspirational. So appropriate to acknowledge that, you know, he's done a heck of a lot for heritage here, and also in particular acknowledge the recognition of Graham Stewart. It was a great loss to the whole community losing Graham like that. He's far too young, he had a lot more to contribute. Nevis is a special place, in particular for people like him, so people deserve some mention, but keep up the good work. And I think there have got 29 organisations that are part of the trust, far cry from the first 9 might have been when I was involved, so keep up the good work, and you're not going anywhere.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think we were just receiving that report. Is the double chair. Yes, recommendations that the report be received. Somebody happy to move that? Thank you, Cheryl and Sarah. All those in favour? Yes, carried. We now move to page 69 with Rebecca and Dylan presenting the Otago Museum annual plan.
Thank you. This report presents the Otago Museum 2024-25 drafting plan. It requests that council consider an increase of 6%. We budgeted for an increase of 3%, based on last year's drafting of the plan, and that change, circumstances have changed. The increase, the dollar amount of that increase would be an additional $1,118. The mayor asked for a specific figure about what would be if we just charged the rate of inflation. So the rate of inflation of 4.7%, it would be $35,996, which is an additional $533.09 to what is in the budget. If that makes sense.
So that's the difference between what we have to pay and what we would be paying if we went as far as 6% as a quite a minimal difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, the difference between what we have to and what they're asking us to is,
It's but,
So in effect, we're paying 1.3% more than we otherwise would have to.
would have to, but in dollar value, it's a.
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
$300.
I think that's, I'm glad you asked that question because I had it ready to go.
There you go.
And it was good to have some time to actually figure it out.
Scary.
In the draft plan, the museum explains the need to develop a new and more substantial business model. And to that end, they've recently met with the Dunedin City Council to discuss the museum's operating budget requirements and have agreed to the importance of further collaboration to explore options. DCC pays 90% of the levy, and so at 90% of the need. And so those, about the timing of the conversation to ensure budgets are completely around the need rather than giving a presentation like this during the planning process. The DCCs are considering a report today on their levy increase, and they had submitted on an increase through their draft levy plan, and the majority submitted their come back in favour of the DCC increasing the levy. So they have formally resolved their levy going into the so probably it's quite good an answer from Republican there today. But it is good to know those conversations being happening, because it will help all councils to get that figure in a more timely manner. Staff, we recommend that the increase that it is increased to the request. However, we not recommending the support for the operation of files. And in the BCC report about that, there is just a brief mention about exploring external opportunities for funding. So I suspect that relates to that now.
Any questions for Rico? Jason?
When you read that report, you correct me if I read it wrong, but I see that there's a $1.7 million deficit that we're operating in, which is significant. And I wholeheartedly support the museum, but I also have to think about our community who has constantly told us, don't spend anything on anything unnecessary, and quite often we will get this comment. And I know it's a small amount of money, but every little small bit of money actually all adds up for community members to pay in the long run. So I'm a bit, I feel mean saying that. But that is how the community is going to sit if we sit around and say yes to everything. So I'm a little bit, I don't know whether anyone else has got any comments or can help me feel that this, because everyone's asking for money, more money, including us, for our community. Every little bit of increase does affect our rate.
I have one musing on that, and that was that the Vincent Community Board didn't spend our entire allocation, and some of our grants all went back into general reserve, if I remember correctly. And our last one, and theoretically, although that has gone into general reserves, maybe we could feel like, whether part of it could come from.
Right, I don't have a rating structure because that has been Vincent ratepayers that have paid for that. Until you guys make any decision on digitisation, I would urge you not to do that because this is across all ratepayers. So in the report you see has significant two ways pay for this increase, which is directly adding up the rates that are taking part out of the district rates with the grants.
I think it's important to understand that there are obligations to the town museum dictated by an act of parliament, which makes it quite unique. The other comment I'll make is that in the grand scheme of things, the increase they're seeking is very little impact.
I don't disagree. If we say that about everything, every little bit will be available. And I'm just conscious of, we are all hearing it everywhere we go, and I'm just conscious there has,
And then, sorry, so.
Thanks, Tama. I'll take your point, Tracy, if we say yes to everything, but I think that doesn't mean that we don't say yes to some things, and this is a few $100s, and we were lucky enough as councillors, most of us, to have a look behind the scenes and see how much of our history this museum does protect. And in the case of the Moa footprints and hearts. So, yeah, I think you're right, but I don't agree with you on this case.
I haven't made a decision. I'm
No,
just,
no, there's a,
you know, just,
yeah,
just feeling it.
there is an awful lot of what we might call our stuff that is held at Otago Museum.
I echo Tracy's point of view, actually. Feel like we did set aside the money that we were advised to, which was the 3%, and now it's gone up to the 6%. And I know that our ratepayers are really feeling this rates increase, and everything that we see with students is going to have an impact on our ratepayers. So I agree with Tracy.
Yeah. Taking 100% of this and 100% of that, and can we do this and can we do that? It's not the money or the thing, it's the ideology of 3%, it's got 6% in the middle as a, that's how we're looking at things. Like it would be nice to give 6, even though it's a minuscule amount of money, the reason behind it, like so if we start saying yes, we do 7% and next time it's got to go to times 10, it's 1.7 million. So
Can I just clarify with Rebecca? So the 3% is what we budgeted, but what we have to pay is 4.7 because of the rate of inflation. So the difference we're talking about is the difference between 4.7 and 6, not 3. We've got no choice but the 4.
yeah, but that's what we've already gone from the 3 that we budgeted. We've got to acknowledge that we are going up.
Yeah.
Much as the rates are,
Yeah.
we're going up. It's unforeseen, but the way it's going, we acknowledge that we have to take that, that's fine.
Yeah.
It's the acknowledgement more than the amount of money.
Gotcha.
Okay. And as a fortuitous event, on Wednesday night last week, I spent the night in the Science Centre with 18 6 and 7-year-olds. And it was really cool, actually, yes, because they had made an allowance and the parents got to have 2 foam mattresses to sleep on. So it was actually quite a comfortable sleep as opposed to laying directly on the couch, of course. But there were a number of kids in the class who had never been to the Otago Museum. And I think for some of our young people, that is a thing that happens frequently from all around Otago and Southland, whereby they get to go and enjoy that kind of cultural and heritage aspect. And I think it is important that we recognise that not all children get the same opportunities to experience that. But I also wondered, it's time and time again that Otago Museum Tuhura has been struggling to receive recognition from central government that that is a nationally treasured location. And I wondered if there was the ability for this council to support or advocate in some way for their continual pleas that they should be recognised in the same way that Christchurch and then Wellington, I think, perhaps are getting
Well, yeah, to Papua and Auckland. I think I recall writing a letter a couple of years ago when they asked for support, and that's just given their hesitation. So we do respond in that space when asked to.
Yeah. Perfect. Any other questions or comments?
I just think we look at cutting rates, we've done a lot of the hard yards, it's probably a couple of hours of consulting on the problem more. I don't feel the need to pay the money. You know, it's a great facility and we're using it more and more ourselves, and we're looking at our Eden Hall collections going down there, and they do a fabulous job, so no problem with it.
And it's not.
We do have the beach.
And just to get the perspective about the numbers, is that, yeah, the budget was 3% because we didn't know what inflation was going to be. So you have to wear that, and that cost you an extra $584. And then we're looking at $530 on top of that. So, yeah, Tracy, in other words, you did right, but it's going to come eventually, because all you're going to do is eventually the rate of inflation will artificially increase you anyway, so you're going to get there. And we seem to have this debate, if we keep on putting it off, they're going to catch up.
On that basis, then, if there are no further questions, Neil, do you want to come up with a recommendation around that. B, considers the request to fund the proposed levy of 6%. Noting this is an additional 2,149 and will increase the payment to 36,530.
That's all right, then, isn't it? Yeah.
Agrees to the request.
Agrees to,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's-
Yes, oh, yeah,
So do you want to change B to agrees to fund,
Yes, sorry.
agrees to a proposed levy increase of 6% in the 2024, noting that the additional increase.
Yes.
Yeah, notes the existing budget allows for 3%, decides how to fund the additional 3%. Did you want to give a?
Last year,
Yes, we don't have to decide what profit comes out.
I think we just need to decide if it's added to rates or if it comes from reserves.
So the, not, well, you could do it from reserves, I'm not recommending that. What, the paper is recommending is from your district grant application, which is never spent. An option, sorry, an option, is to take it from that. So I think financially you've got two options, is to take it, when you allocate the district grant money, the heritage arts, and let it go into that pot. Or you add it to the rates.
Would people like to add the additional $500 odd to the rates or take it from the interest rate?
Right, that's where it's going to end up.
Right.
Let's not hide it.
Right, yeah.
Right.
Okay, so,
Somewhere else.
notes the additional 3% will be added to
Will be
the,
rate funded.
will be rate funded. Perfect. And then considers the request for a contribution towards the $100,000 required for stage 2 of the sprinkler upgrade project. The staff recommendation on that was that we do not participate in that at this time. Are people happy with that?
That's right, Tracy.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Declines the request.
And can I suggest that you change C and B around, just in terms of order? I'm just being picky. You're just noting what we originally had, and we're going to, and then, and what, you're now going to change it. You can do that. Absolutely. But maybe one-
Just give her a chance.
Slowly.
Right order, Stu.
Sorry, Madam Lead, I shouldn't have listened to her. It's hard not to.
You've got support music, you've got a few pieces.
People have moved those, Stu has seconded, all those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you very much. Rebecca. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamara. I note that we were scheduled to have lunch at 12:30, but I also note our three water speakers have been waiting very patiently, so I propose we box on. Nobody's objecting to that. Nigel, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Phil. We've got item 34.6.7 on page 99, delivery approach to water services operation.
Yeah. Brilliant, thank you, and good afternoon. The purpose of this report is just to consider how we might move towards the delivery of objectives as per the report. As you know, the operating environment for the report delivery is very different now from what it was a few years ago. It's got a lot more complicated, there's a lot more regulatory requirements, and of course, incredible constraints that we're trying to work within, and requires a lot more hands-on management approach inside council than what we have in those last few years. So what was suggesting moving forward is an option is taking more control of the management function of the delivery of the unit in-house, rather than with Paul Hogan have done a great job working with us to deliver the services we require. What we are finding now is that we are needing to take a much more of a combined approach of how we deliver services in the future. So make the need to go to which it's greatly challenging trying to get the renewable programs aligned with the
delivery of the operations agreements. So at the moment, we are doing a lot of reactive works with the already that dialogue, but it's effective, and the new programs have placed really focus on reactive works. But to do that, we need to be able to have a full extended works that we do. It's what the start of a line of with doing new programs, growth, and making the standards that we are now being required to meet, because of other government changes, and through that a lot more holistically than what we needed to in the past. So all of that sort of together with the renewal of the contract coming out next year, there's a really good opportunity to have a good rethink about how we do it and changing our focus a lot. So essentially that's what this paper is about. I guess in the operating environment, and I think the council areas, a lot of councils are considering these options, and this is the main way that a lot of other councils have the prison operators in council for a long time. There's a lot of footholds across the country, people grappling with where are the greatest risks and they can get eventually to much for the community that is happening. Probably the number of paper from the questions and Julie also got really to Albert, she's online as well, so the questions will be way.
We've got resources to do this.
So yeah, that's an excellent question. So we are looking to that things in the past has been it's been very committed. We're committed to dealing with the business as usual, but now we have a bit more resilience in the team to be able to deliver a few and so it's right for yes, we can do this. Suggesting a slow progress forward, so step by step, not doing everything at once, and then just seeing how we go and assessing where we land with each step forward, make sure that that's all the best people in forward, not suggesting a change overnight, but a gradual moving forward. Ensuring that what we're doing is bringing this back. So there is the ability to stop at the point about right, we've actually achieved that. We've actually stopped more issues.
If they're not resourced for it, there's some risk in that things will happen, like on the testing side of things. Are you comfortable with that? Those resources we currently have will deliver that.
So yeah, the short answer is yes. So what we're working towards is ensuring that the budget envelope we've got is that we will stay within that envelope. So if we are bringing more services in-house, then there will be a transition. And if we're not able to say fill a position that's run there, the status quo will remain.
Why do we not get that?
Place. So it is about risk management. It's already the outcome and if we not able to do that, we have to report that into the satisfied that is into that. Plus, we're not making our choice, making the change.
One thing we can do is please. Now, going forward, there'll be a more stringent reporting basis coming back to us. So that we get insurance, we don't need insurance that.
Yeah, and I think that is a key point at the moment as we are looking at every KPIs is really based around the right images for the clean woods, and we definitely very keen to expand it out so we've got more understanding and reporting back of delivering what we want delivered. So we need to be very clear about what we're wanting, and then making sure we do that through reviewing and for sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nigel. Neil, on page 102, we talk about the proposal, and I'm kind of following on from Martin, being contingent on getting 2 roles of treatment plant engineer and electrical telemetry engineer, whatever the hell that is. And then further down, it says you would have a council employed treatment plant manager. Now, is the treatment plant manager and the treatment plant engineer the same thing, or it is? Great. So that's 2 people, not 3. Thank you, Brett.
There's one of the objectives long term. It's probably not so much saving money, but making sure you use the money got. Unlikely that the cost of it decrease over time, but we are getting to be able to use money for being more productive from the council side with that money by making different choices around reactive maintenance and project maintenance essentially. So if we can get more on top of our reactive maintenance, then that should reduce our reactive costs moving forward. But we have understanding about the state of our plant and equipment, but we've got the right things to do at the right time. Actually, with the great stuff on time, but it is a long season.
It was just, that the parks team was to commence immediately with variation to which, so is that able to happen with all the contracts?
Yes, so part of our renewal of the contract is agreed for the next 12 months. Is we are making some changes over the next year and next one of those by removing out the grounds maintenance on that work and applying that to us and the boost maintenance work just makes sense. And there'll be some good synergies there from Delta maintains some of those sites as they're doing other sites in those areas. Anyway, that's a relatively minor amount, but it's just that's a small synergy we found that should make a difference.
The changes that are proposed here, which I understand make sense, are they likely to assist in avoiding issues like we're going to hear about the next report about the Ranfurly situation? Is these changes likely to provide a less likely to that sort of thing?
Yes, absolutely. Unfortunately, things still occur.
Oh yeah, there's no criticism here in there. Just saying, I suspect I'm joining dots, and I'm putting. You answered what I hope you were going to give me.
Yeah. So the idea of the plant engineer or plant manager is about focus a lot more on those methods being great, a lot better training and essentially so that a lot of those situations and yes, but be much more aware of what's going on to the site. Thank you, I think,
Thank you, Neil. This fund book, like the remember extending this contract another year with this time. So a better way of doing things is this step in that direction. I believe it will save the cost of areas which can be reapplied or another. And as Neil said, if we can move along a path doing some work in the south, starting monitoring and taking sort of more. But I think there's a much greater control start. So if we have a mover for recommendations A, B, C, D, and E. Gerald, we took them out. Okay, any further questions, discussion? All in favour? Aye. Carried. Thank you. We'll move to page 100. Rank giving water incident.
Report as released. This report is providing an update of the actions that were identified, including the review of the Grenfell Voice of my incident in 2023. The original review, which was presented to council in September 23, identified that the contractor's response and it led to an 8-day boil water notice, significant disruption for the community and the 23-24 summer period allowed for the implementation of those actions that were identified. And we believe that we saw a significant improvement in response water demand during the months of the year. There were a couple of actions that particularly we identified as being significant and improvement. One of those was the implementation of software and structured data. That software allowed us to create dashboards where we could see minute by minute information and analyse any trend. And that gave us early indication of stress on voice decline across the district. In particular, in Rainford, that allowed us to see there was a drop off in the flow that influenced the treatment plant, which we could then trigger or including inspection of the upper intake year. Communication was a big improvement this summer across the board between council staff, Port Victorian, landowners and other stakeholders in the area. There was regular information through the summer, which gave us more appropriate insight into what was happening. The parks team and council parks team and the water team were also working much closer together in relation to irrigation in our communities. Weir maintenance, as the contract stipulates that the weir should be maintained quarterly. However, from the previous year, we identified that this was not frequent enough. And so through this summer, the weir was inspected and cleaned at least fortnightly, with additional cleans directed by service staff, we saw indications of drop off and flow. The contractor, with the communication with the landowners, was able to maintain safe and ongoing access to the top tank. And they did report that on most inspections, it was filled up with algae on the spring. And sometimes it was quite significant over a relatively short period. The reintroduction of the bottom drops tool. We saw some great response from that. We've again using the software to look for the early indicators of stress on the device. We use that tool to implement green drops in communities. And we did see through that data, we could actually quite easily see the great response in the community with those restrictions that we did. So those tools together, as well as the action that we speak in, the response this summer, we moved from a reactive position to proactive. We saw that through that summer period.
Thank you. Chris, through adversity comes opportunity.
I'll just write that down, Stu. That's
Yeah, just what I'll try to keep going.
Can you remember?
But it was a pretty tricky time that happened, but we've been as dry this year and the water's been fantastic. And the ratepayer as well has responded to this is not a big tap on it, forget about it all day. So no, I think the start and the contract did a big out of that this year. I've done a great job. And still are getting the drawing as well.
I'm just trying to get my head around things, Nigel. The graph on page 111, we put the red restriction in on March the 1st, and in the commentary it says that we turned the taps off at the showgrounds in March, but I see that sort of demand starting to drop off the edge of the cliff around about February the 26th or 27th. So how do we explain that? Because what I'm trying to figure here is obviously the demand started to drop and continued to drop once we brought the restrictions in, but what caused it to start to drop around about that 26th, 27th? February, sorry.
You got dry, didn't rain.
It rained. No, so the demand would have, something caused it to start to decline steeply before we turned off the showgrounds and before we went on to red. Have I got that right? So the water demand, yeah, the red line between what's noted as the 25th of February and the 1st of March, that's when the steep drop starts, but we haven't brought in the red water thing until the 1st of March, which I think is what that orange line implements.
So you can see the movement indicates temperature.
Yeah.
And I mean, from the 25th, it has been a bit of increase back up to maybe 27 roughly. I mean, I can look into this more and get more.
Yeah, it'd be unfair to argue not a moment.
Yeah, I mean, I can provide look into it, but to find out. But temperature obviously dropped off a little bit during that period. And if there was rain, it's going to be some less water. During just naturally weren't using the sprinklers, but during that period, we could still use the sprinklers.
You'd argue the rate of the people respond to the temperature and realise that we're getting really hot. And we're not using the sprinklers now, or they're restricted to using sprinklers. So the response from the water user will actually direct result of temperature.
Yeah, looks really good. But the other question I'd ask, I think on my records here, the show was on the 14th. So I'm wondering, given things were starting to perhaps look a bit tricky, why we didn't stop irrigating the showgrounds once the show was finished, because I thought that was always keep the ground a bit moist, a bit softer for the horses. And if we had it stopped, maybe just for future reference, hey, it's been pretty dry, the prediction's pretty dry, why don't we stop now? So.
Throughout that period, we were pretty stable. We didn't have too much decline in those bits of life. When we put the wedge drop on, that was actually a with communication with the other irrigators in the catchment and the scale of it. It was actually to give a response to the wider catchment, specifically what's happening at the rental lead.
Right, thank you. That's very helpful for future understanding. Thanks, Mike.
No, just leave that. It's pretty good. I don't know yeah, it's a big bit around. So, moving second in your report for your seeds to. Sure. Further discussion, all in favour?
Aye.
Carried, thank you. Thank you very much. So we move to item 34.9, main waste water compliance status update. Good.
So I think I take this report as well. Some of the highlights from the report. ORC audited the wastewater sites in April, and they were generally happy and satisfied with the improvements made at the sites. They've globally provided positive feedback multiple times on these 2 days on the improvements made on site maintenance, our commitment towards compliance, and improvements made in the last 1 year. Alexandra Wastewater is now fully compliant with the abatement notice requirements. Common nitrogen levels are consistently low, and in May is the 7th consecutive month where the results are below in centimeters. Roxborough, the study at Roxborough has been completed. Thank you. Any questions?
Questions, comments? Present.
Yeah, just in this report, there is, I noticed that if you go back down and look at the quality, it's going to be the, completion of improvements identified. Whereas when you look at the other ones, the total, with no total cost, was that by design or was that?
So last year when we back an extension for the agreement, nitrogen levels was still high, and it was important to demonstrate and the request that it's not that we're not doing anything to improve the performance of the plant, but it was that we invested a lot of money and resources to improve the plant performance, which will eventually help us to compliance. So it was important to show that we spent 1.9 million in the last few years, which will help us to achieve compliance.
So why would the other, like, pay for these interim,
So for specific for this, we, at that stage, we will apply for the payment notice. The amount of effort it went to improve the performance was more, sensitive. We didn't actually spend the money. That's why for this, we didn't do any calculations. We can provide a low cost in the next report if you want. But the purpose why we did put, the comment was intentional. We wanted to show ORC that we have invested money and resources to compliance.
So again, a positive report, I believe, especially the comments compliant, it's it, so that's the good news as well. So thank you for that, and this report we received, I have a move. Yeah. Speaking by Sally. Further discussion, in favour?
Aye.
Yes, no. Thank you very much. Then we move on to item 34.1610. Status upgrades to Cromwell Rising Main and Cromwell People Upgrade. Patrick.
I'll take the status reports as read. These are the first ones we've done. This format, so I'm actually quite keen to get some feedback from you all on if there's any areas that we quite understand that we can improve on. We had a bit of a chat to the CEO and the project governance group about them. They were quite happy with most of it. There's one little area where we've got an acronym, which probably we shouldn't have in there. It says EAC in the budget area, which means estimate of completion, which is, you know, pretty much the same as a forecast. Otherwise, we've got the project health information there, which is really key for you guys in the governance role to understand where the key risks could be that you need to know about during the course of the project. The Cromwell water treatment upgrade report is about the overall upgrade of the Cromwell water, which is the Fairfield, the water treatment plant. So the other report is about Cromwell Rising Main, which is a standalone project which has been constructed at the moment. So that could be the Mr. Prime Minister.
I actually didn't understand what AG and so I did ask Ania and he said it was amber, green and red, but I didn't actually understand. I was like, well, what are those, what do they mean?
Green means good or nothing major. Amber means, you know, you need to keep your watching very tight. And red is actually, you know, obviously it's a critical thing we need to be working on at the moment from constantly trying to get what's going on. You'll notice under the project risk analysis, the box on one, we've got nothing there over the overall Cromwell water treatment upgrade. But under the Cromwell Rising Main, we've got two amber lists that we put up and into this area so you know the specifics of those risks that we've identified during the course of the project and how we're working on them.
Just for a presentation point of view, is there any desire to maybe think about a hard copy of these dashboards on A3 format or?
It's quite hard to see on your laptop.
Yeah, these are really good.
Good idea.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether that one, we're going to get this dashboard for the variety of things.
That would be really handy, much more as I like to have a paperless office, because what I would do is keep them so that I can look back really easily at the past ones as well. So much more as I hate printing for the sake, I don't think it is printing for the sake of it, it's a very good
It's quite hard to
thing.
I was hoping they'd be up on the screen because they're quite good from that perspective, but definitely if you're reading and looking through them and you want to give us some printing out and A3 film, that is very good. But condensed as much information as we could. there's a lot of information there. We've managed to put all we can onto a nice sheet. If you do it on A4, it is, it's spot.
You know, so maybe they think
Just in general, just referring to his worship's comment, even on today, is this the sort of thing we're going to be getting for our major projects?
Yeah. Yes, so all CapEx projects,
All major.
and I get it, and ones that are topical, like the Wilding Farms might have been a project that, you know, in the future iteration, you might run it through this sort of process.
And getting this information, then we should be, it's preempting the issues that is highlighted, which happened in Queenstown with the cost blowouts. We should know if that's happening, a hell of a lot bloody earlier than our compatriots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this, and this reporting will also go to the Audit and Risk Committee, all the CapEx budgets.
So, yeah, so it's a real belt and braces approach to, giving us the opportunity to revisit projects that we're getting some.
There's one of the things that, and it was just fortuitous, that report came out prior to this change being made, but it did, the Commissioner Nigel, it did say that the council was not being informed early enough to actually do anything other than write a check.
Yeah.
And when you look at the Memorial Hall, for instance, a 1% increase there is $400,000.
That's what with my experience sitting on this table. Those suppliers that reach into the end process and then they've got no ability as governments to actually bring about any changes. And I think that's been a real issue in the past.
And just to add to your belts and braces comments, in some regards, it's belts, braces and binder time, because the board, if it's a board-based project such as the Memorial Hall, will also get these dashboards.
I think, yeah,
That's good news.
I think it is pretty good. I think there is a difference in type between a freeze waters or a roading project where once the decision to build has been made, it's really all about the financials and even timing schedules. Whereas for a project like the town centre and the common hall, there's still ongoing community input, which is not captured on the dashboard. But it's important to be fair into the process. So that's, I think that's something that we have to work through with this, new system here, clearly. But I think, as Patrick said, there's an awful lot of information on this dashboard. And hard copy to.
Basically running sands. So you get down to a layer of about 1.8 meters and there's running sand coming through. So they can mitigate it for source extent.
There's
That's saying that we, oh, if you can speak that, it's pretty.
Yeah, it's a big, 9-inch weeks.
Okay. Any further questions?
I suppose one comment I would like to make is that it's an April report, so I think we've got to remember this is a annual report. So if there are anything that arise, that that we're catching up on with being informed the CEO and the major risk issues that would be expressed wider necessarily, but if there's any improvements or anything we want to do, we can do that direction. But I'm using the system for a couple of years, and I've got dozens of projects that sit in the background that reports can be pushed up from this. That's quite good that you can see it around this table being utilised fully from this perspective.
These are refinements of what the major projects groups received for a couple of years.
We look at this on a monthly basis. Absolutely.
And the reporting frequency will be for the waters, so it's bi-monthly. So this will come back to you end of July. Roading in the fall will come to you like in the alternate month. So June, you would expect to see road and those other things. But we'll just get it on that for this. Add to the community board on their accounts.
And we're also not because of the guidance and depending on what the threshold might be of the cost of what sort of project, because you don't really bombard with these and what, there'll be a level of community risk with stakeholder application going lower, because the project might need to be elevated to you guys. But there should also be at some stage of cost thresholds that are 3 million, 5 million, whether you guys want to see around this table. So we good if we got that.
What's most welcome?
Always, the mill one, community projects. Okay, thank you, Patrick. No further comments? Okay, so sort of receive the report. Student the second. Further discussion. All those in favour? Aye. Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Nigel. It's 12:57. We're a bit behind schedule, but we'll adjourn for lunch and come back at 1:30. Thanks, everybody. And maybe thanks, yeah. Wayne emphasised, Chairman, before he went away, that in terms of the submitters, we need to discuss that in the class. We passed the business about diversity and the work for the boards without like even a discussion. Is that going to get us in trouble?
So it's like the annual plans and missions, you guys have seen them, and it's almost like how you go by exception. And you did raise it and say that you've got this other submission, so
That's enough.
that's enough.
Okay.
And there's nothing to be raised about it.
The submissions, Linda, or
There's a quote with the representation review, and Wayne had said it, and I just had a feeling.
done the right thing.
For goodness sake, make sure that you do discuss.
Yeah.
And we touched on
We
it,
did.
Yeah.
and nobody.
It was acknowledged in the report.
You are.
Nobody did it.
yeah,
I just,
well done.
I don't.
Very particular, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
I thought you might mention the Queenstown situation with those that